Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello everyone, welcome to the special edition of the Miracle You, the Awakening Through Moments of Choice book series with Mary. Throughout the series, Mary will share with you her insights and feelings on our story that was shared in the book from my perspective. We know that what she has to share will enhance your experience reading the book. Let's get started. Here's Mary.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Awakening Through Moments of Choice series. In this episode, I'll be talking about how our honeymoon time in California had prepared us for the next big steps we took together. I hope this will give you a deeper understanding from my perspective of our journey. If you don't have the book yet, you can purchase it at Amazon using the link in the show notes. You might wonder why we would ever leave California. We had 2 idyllic years of fewer distractions, lots of beach time and walking time, Disneyland, and Vince becoming a channel. We were in the vibration of creation and artistry, as I imagine it was like in the early 1900s at the dawning of Hollywood. Every time I would land at LAX, I could see and appreciate the mild climate and varied terrain of the landscape and admire its uniqueness and purpose, which would help me feel this creative energy in my body. I also wonder if my love for California is because I was born and raised there. I was loving life. It was the beginning of experiencing more of getting to know myself. The kids were grown. My youngest, Riley, was making his way and living only 40 minutes south of us. And Lloyd was on his path living in Steamboat, Colorado on a big ranch. I was experiencing a new sense of freedom. It felt divine. I can't speak for Vince, but although I was experiencing a great life, I was focused on the outside of me. I was in appreciation of everything obvious through my 5 senses. Still, I was missing out on what was waiting for me on the inside, the real me. In chapter 23, the Roundtable states, when you open yourself to all the possibilities and align with the real you, the universe constantly conspires to help you create and manifest. Dawn Yoga wasn't the only big thing happening during our time in California. We were always talking about and dreaming about owning a retreat center. And we always had a mentor or coach, just as we both do today. I shared with you about learning about vibration. We also learned about connection. Samara was that mentor and also became a good friend. She shared many of her favorite things with us, such as the Integratron and quartzite. If you haven't visited the Integratron, it's a must. It is the fusion of art, science, and magic. The Integratron, circa 1954, is located in Landers, California, 20 miles north of Joshua Tree National Park. It is known for this one-of-a-kind, 38-foot high, 55-foot diameter, all-wood dome designed to be an electrostatic generator for rejuvenation and time travel. Its exceptional acoustical properties are shared with the world. via the Integratron sound bath. Both the property and the sound bath supported stepping on my path to connect to the unseen of me. Vince and I had experienced many other travels and retreats in sacred places like Guatemala and central Mexico, in pyramids and jungles. But this was the beginning of the understanding of bringing heart, mind, and body together. Samara also introduced us to Quartzsite, Arizona, where we purchased beautiful crystals for our home. One of the most essential gifts that Samara shared with us was being a clear, conscious channel. She also shared the space where we focused on creating our next big step, owning a retreat center. It was a magical time leading up to finding the center. It started in February 2014 at her retreat, where we deeply connected with understanding our authentic selves. Then only 5 months later, we were standing on the property Vince talks about in chapter 23, Sophia. Many of you will recognize the meaning of the name Sophia, the name of the center that a church was selling. Sophia is a Greek word for wisdom, and in many religions carries the idea of the feminine personification of divine wisdom, or the divine feminine. Remembering back to the retreat with Samara in Arizona, she led us through an exercise where we used words drawn up from our hearts and written on a large piece of paper to illustrate what our retreat center would feel like. A vision board. We described things like wanting a labyrinth, a chapel, goats and chickens, and being in a community with native people, birds, flowers, families, and children. The words were summoned from each of our hearts and placed on this paper in no particular order. In the center of the big white paper, we had drawn a large heart with these words outlining it: harmony, connection, serenity, hope, and unity. And in the center of the heart, we wrote, I am home. Samara intuitively asked us, what name is coming to you for the central gathering place at the center? Vince knew it was to be an Indian name, so I pulled out my phone and Googled, and we landed on a Hopi word, Araluna, which I read meant home for many. One of the places that fit our heart-based description was Sophia. When Vince and I drove up the curvy driveway after a long overnight drive from California to the Four Corners region of Colorado, we saw this large log lodge in front of us. Under my breath, I said, oh shit, this is it. Not only was my body vibrating, but my mind was also connecting what I saw with what we had put on paper only 5 months before. Sophia and Ariluna quickly became my energetic mentors, so to speak. What I now know was Sophia, the energy of the land, the feminine, and Ariluna, the lodge where we housed people from all over the world, was the masculine energy. The land and the building were symbolic of the energies coming together to show me what is possible inside of me. In the book, you hear about the adventures of getting the center up and running. It had been sitting mostly vacant for about 2 years, except for the occasional retreat the church would bring the last years while they were selling it. It was in tremendous need of maintenance and up-leveling. My oldest son, Lloyd, agreed to move and dedicate himself to helping us, so we three and many locals poured our hearts and souls into it. Meanwhile, Vince was working full-time, traveling back and forth and using every spare moment on his layovers to meditate and receive guidance. The very first thing he would do after each trip was to share his latest downloads. And the second thing, Lloyd and I would share all the challenges we were facing. Vince and his guides were dedicated to supporting us through this challenging spiritual growth journey and starting a brand new business. One of the most significant channelings early on in our first year was an expanded session to take the vision board that I just described to an even deeper level and to include Lloyd. The speaker on this vital day was Archangel Metatron, who is the Archangel of Empowerment. He is believed to have risen into the angelic kingdom from a human incarnation, along with his spiritual brother, Archangel Sandalphon. Archangel Metatron acts as the patron angel of children. His special mission is to assist the Earth's children as they grow into adults. As you advance on the spiritual path chosen, the Archangel helps you by raising your vibration energy so that you may rise to the challenges you are sure to encounter along the way. There were 2 more buildings on the property. This afternoon, we were in what was called the guest house, which had an octagon-shaped room adjoined by a guest bedroom and bath. The bottom floor of the building contained 4 more bedrooms with private baths. Sometimes Lloyd, Vince, and I would gather for our meetings in the Ari Luna Lodge and others in the octagon room. Today, we chose the sunny, energetic octagon room. We always had our 2 dogs with us, sleeping in the sun on the carpet. The channelings always begin with an introduction. Today, it was Archangel Metatron who was going to guide us in the funniest and most loving way to get into our hearts to once again put on paper how we wanted to create our lives and business at Sophia. This was a compelling experience, and this new board was hung in the lodge for all our guests to see. The effective teaching for me in that session was what Archangel Metatron shared after listening to what I shared about my experience living at Sophia and what it meant to me. I ended my sharing by stating that I loved to be there, hated to leave, and was always happy to be back. There was something so unique about living in the energy of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. We noticed that the guests would come in all grumpy and some really stuck up, and they'd leave the following day refreshed and energized. And we had long-term tenants that lived in the back building that would ask to stay for longer. And in turn, we also had tenants that would not be able to live in the energy and leave abruptly. The greatest thing I enjoyed was not being bored. I've struggled with that my entire life. Archangel Metatron shared, Sophia and Ari Luna are supporting the joy you 3 are feeling, and most that stay here. What you're going to find is Ari Luna and Sophia are supporting the change in each of you. He continued to share that when I step off of the property, and if I would allow myself to maintain the energy no matter where I would go, I would not be bored because I would be on the edge of the unknown. He said, you are learning to feel. It is a communication system, a relief system, a growth system. It is an understanding. You learned it here in the safety and comfort in the energy of Sophia and the energy of Ari Luna. So the exciting thing is that you are experiencing you. It is neither Sophia doing it to you, nor Ari Luna doing it to you. It is you. As the years wore on, I somehow wore out because I didn't know how to maintain the energy, as Metatron said would happen. I allowed stress and worry to seep back in and take control. I allowed the disappointments to dampen the successes. From that mindset, and not from one of joy, owning and growing thanks to Sophia was a brain teaser masquerading as a no-brainer. On the outside, it looked like a no-brainer to own a center where we could bring people in to share the programs Vince was developing in partnership with his guides. It would allow Lloyd to live and work in the San Juan Mountains, and for me to be in community and run a business. But in reality, Sophia was where the rubber meets the road. The experience was the beginning of Vince and my understanding of the Roundtable's profound teachings. To stay on your path of purpose, you must master your mind. Vince accurately described in the book what was happening to me. He writes, "For me, there were the normal life stressors of working a full-time job and owning a separate business, but I loved my personal path and my personal transformation. It was a high-flying time for me. For Mary, it was not the same. She was experiencing for the first time in her life the high vibration of the land, and she was being introduced to living what could be with the blending of divine feminine and masculine as she lived primarily at Sophia. I began to realize that she didn't have the on-demand connection with Source that was becoming normal for me. And she didn't have the tools to transform her old way of being into the new way of being that the energetics of the center were giving her. I was moving into the understanding of the new paradigm and was leaving her behind." He continued, "I could tell she was in a low vibration. She was discovering that she was repeating all the old thinking and behaviors that she had relied on for her 50 years. This energetic place was helping her to quickly become aware that she couldn't be the same old person and respond in the same old ways." It would have been easy to blame everything on Sophia, but I couldn't. I knew better. But what was I going to do? Yes, I had guidance from the Roundtable and it helped, but I didn't have the tools to use to change my mind, to master it. At least not yet. It was a gut-wrenching decision to sell Sophia. That chapter was closing. It was a relatively quick sale and was sold to spiritual teachers quite similar to Vince and me. I'm not surprised, are you? Sophia brought me many gifts, most of which I am only just now uncovering nearly 3 years later. But the most important was it brought me closer to an understanding that I am way more than what I understood with my 5 senses. We sold Sophia in March of 2020, the beginning of the COVID shutdown for us in America. So yes, another wake-up call. But no one in the collective consciousness could escape looking at this one. I was saying the things that others were saying, like, I no longer want to live this way. I know that there's something here for me. I know there's more. I know no matter what I've done up till now that I've been preparing for something bigger. I had to really buckle down and do my spiritual work, as they say. It was the first time in my life that I couldn't be too busy and there was nowhere to go. So I spent most of that year resisting. Resisting being told what to do, where and when I could go somewhere, and fearing when this was going to stop. Even though Vince was home from flying, and we continued to teach, coach, and channel, I was fighting depression while simultaneously learning what Vince was already living. I didn't even know I was a bystander to the new paradigm. I didn't even know what I didn't know. I thought I already knew the information he was compiling for programs under the guidance of the Roundtable. I didn't understand then that Vince had moved into the new paradigm and left me behind. I had found someone to go through life with me, and even someone that spoke to my heart and allowed me to share all of myself. Together, we survived many challenges with adult children, businesses, major disappointments, and even deaths. We celebrated our grandchildren's births, accomplishments, and spiritual growth. We had each other, and we were growing and expanding. What was next was another level. Our marriage had moved through the well-known stages of a partnership, and we were well prepared to weather this next phase on our spiritual path together. I had supported Vince through the phase of waking up, and now it was his turn to help me. I had the benefit of the euphoria stage, and he had the challenge of the keeping it going stage. It was an opportunity to springboard from our union of living life to living the life we are meant to live, and we had each other to do it. We believe that to make the huge difference you are meant to make in this world, you must transform and live your life your way. We know that as each of us uncover the reason we chose to come to earth, share our gift with the world, and live our divine intent fully, we all will create the change we want to see in the world. You are meant to live your unique purpose fully in a community that supports your journey as you support them. And we are excited to be on this journey with you. I hope today's episode gave you a broader insight to the remaining sections of our book, Awakening Through Moments of Choice. It was a pleasure and an honor to share our journeys with you. I hope you enjoyed our time together as much as I did. Please enjoy the book, and if you find it entertaining and helpful, please leave us a review on Amazon. We hope to have you join us for other episodes on The Miracle You.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleyou.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 Mind Awakening Steps Toward Your Unique Purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleyou.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.